Hey, greetings everybody. Welcome back to the Sole Producers. I'm Griffin Gaming RPG, and I'm here with my co-producers. It's been a month. It's been a little while since we've been here to see you guys, and but we're back. And so I'm here with Captain Serious Fun. Cap, how are you?
Every day is an absolute blessing, especially when I get to hang out with the executive producer OGs. It's good to be here.
Good to have you here as always, chilling on a Sunday. And also we have Fast Cart FC. How are you, my friend?
I feel inadequate to measure up to Captain Serious Fun. Please, just now I'm going to have to do my best, do better. I'm not promising any bad jokes. So that's okay. What I'm doing well. Thank you.
Okay. You know what? I just realized, Cap, that the reason why we didn't cover the topic we were going to cover the topic tonight about is because you and I are in the militant mode today. FC's in the Star Citizen mode. So unless all three of us are militant at the same time, we can't do anything too heavy. So we're going to go with the Star Citizen topic this week. He's got his chairman's club on.
We have to have a unanimous.
I got on my power shirt. You got on your power shirt. You know, but
I got my chairman's club shirt.
He got his chairman's club shirt on. So we're glad he broke the mold for us today. So we'll have it maybe next month. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. See, you always gotta blame me for this kind of stuff. Don't you?
You're the scapegoat. You're the scapegoat. Well, listen, we want to say thank you guys for supporting and watching our series that we've been doing called The Producers. This is where, once again, those of us who are the co-producers of Soul Citizens come together and talk about a topic that we think is relevant and important to the Star Citizen community and to the gaming community. So again, thank you. Those of you, particularly those of you who support us, you guys get to see this first on YouTube, through Patreon, and then of course we send it out to the rest of the community. So thank you guys for all that cool support.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this week we've got a title called Dream Stompers. Dream Stompers. And this kind of came from a launching of a post that was put out on August 29th. And, you know, the question is, man, who are the Dream Stompers? You know, when it comes to this development of Star Citizen, is it the developer? You know, because the developer has kind of said some things that they want to accomplish and achieve. Or is it the backers, the community, who kind of feel a certain kind of way sometimes when things don't go their way? You know, I hate to almost use the word. I was going to say dream killers, but I don't want to say people are killing dreams. But sometimes we kind of do, you know, feel like somebody's like stomping out, you know, my vision of what it is. And that could be on either side. It could be like from the developer side, or it could be from the backer side. So we're going to be talking about that today. And so my buddies here, I don't know, did either of you guys get to watch this video yet? Or are you bracing yourself? Okay, so Fastcar hasn't seen it. Have you seen it, Cap? Did you get to watch it, Cap?
I have not seen it. I am scared and yet intrigued.
Okay.
So I want to lean in. Let's go.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. Okay.
I have a feeling I'll be saying the quote that I love saying. This is why we can't have nice things throughout this whole video.
Maybe not. It may not be that bad. All right. So here's the post. Right. This was dated August 29th, which was what, 3 days ago? Thursday, was it? Thursday? Yeah, Thursday.
Right.
The stars have been removed from Star Citizen, and it says can't really see the stars anymore in this space game. There also appears to have been a green fog filter applied to the entire game world, including the interiors of ships. I tried every angle to get that final shot that barely resembles the prior patch, but still has massively reduced star density. Can y'all maybe undo this? The visual quality is absolutely tanked. It looks like we're inside of a dirty fish tank, and there's some sample images here. I remember when I first saw this green cast a little while back. Now, I've been playing recently and I haven't had the cast inside the ships, but I do remember being inside a couple ships where it looked kind of hazy and unclear. And at first I thought maybe it was that fog kind of thing they did, but then it seemed to clear up for me. But I can't remember which ship I was in. I almost feel like it was the Hammer. Yeah, that's what he's in now, a Hammerhead. I felt like it was the Hammerhead because I remember being in somebody's Hammerhead and wondering about it. I haven't seen it in some of my other ships though. But there are 283 replies to this, as you guys can see. We're going to dig into that a little bit later, and we're also going to dig into what CIG has to say. But I want us to watch this little video here that was done by two of my favorite, I shouldn't say that, two content creators who I as much as I try, I find myself every once in a while having to watch their videos. One of them is Jim Reviews, and then Jim Review is viewing Cameral's video. So this is really interesting watching a certain level of intensity about this game, watching another level certain of intensity about this game. So these guys haven't seen it yet. I got to watch it today and all the way through. So we're going to take a quick look at it, and then we're going to come back and give some thoughts. So let's go ahead and hit the video here. Let's see where we at.
So I believe that at this point, the question needs to be asked, is Chris Roberts actually trying to destroy Star Citizen? Is he looking for ways to make sure players leave enough so as to say, you know what, this is unfortunate, but we can't go on this way. I need to close the company, declare bankruptcy, sell the assets, of which he has many, and just go on his merry way and just forget about it, which he will be able to do once this is no more. Or is it just a series of horrible choices? Well, that's what we'll talk about in this video. Guys, welcome to the channel, and I'll be reacting to one of the latest videos from Kamuro. 324 Space is Green. Chris, what are you doing? You know, before I get into this, it is unplayable. The game is unplayable as of right now. They've optimized it so poorly that it just fries your CPU. Oh, mine, it works great. Congratulations. Mine doesn't. And mine works great with all other games. Mine worked great up until 323. I could play 323, had no reason to because it sucks already. 324 is even worse. But 324, I cannot finish a session. Sooner rather than later, it just crashes in a horrible manner. And there's no point. Honestly, at this point, I would suggest not even trying it because I mean, it could be that it screws up with your hardware. I mean, you're not supposed to run things this bad that are so poorly optimized, that change the speed of the ventilators. I mean, all of this crazy thing that you see from Chris Roberts makes me think that they're actually trying to sync the game so as to say, whoop, we gave it a good old try, but backers, noise, people were not giving us enough money. They didn't believe in the dream enough. When all of this is super suspicious, how many mistakes can you make? How much can you screw over that which was already working, as little as there was, but you had that at least, but now you go and change the flight model to something that only a complete simp fanboy could like? I mean, there's people that say that they like the drawers, that they didn't even work. But yeah, I like the inventory with the drawers just to put things. I mean, there's stupid people that say all kinds of nonsense. But for most, the great majority, we know what's going on. Now, in this case, we have, yes, that space is green. Let's listen to this.
Feedback is valuable is really bad because CHE is ignoring 99.99% of our feedback. At the end, CHE does what Chris wants. Now,
oh yeah, asking for your feedback is one of the lamest things they do.
Some of you might say, just look at Hubble images, look at all those colors and all those clouds. Well, first of all, those are false color images.
Yeah, that's not how space looks. It's black, pitch black, and spots of light with your stars. That's basically it.
This does not
There's not, and at some point, and Kamura does explain that they use this as to show, but at some point, understand that even NASA does marketing. They need images that catch your attention. If all they show is black and white crap with space and white dots, it's kind of
like this. If you look with your naked eye, when we are looking out of our ships in space, we are using the good old Mark I eyeball. You would never see colors like this with your naked eye. You would never see clouds like this. This is a long exposure Hubble photo with false colors. How about some JWST images? James Webb Space Telescope. Look at those colors.
Yeah, it's not
because
real.
Because it helps to interpret the images. It's a very useful tool, but you would never see it like this if you would look with your naked. Space is black with some stars. Space is not green.
Now space is green. And I don't know what it is, but honestly, even when you leave the cities and your hangar, flying through space alone, that still fucks up your computer. It is incredible what they've done.
We don't see fogs in space when we are using our good old Mark I eyeball. We would never see it because he knows he cannot even deliver 50%. Never see it like this if we just look out of a window. This is terrible. I get more and more the impression that Chris wants to destroy his game, wants to destroy his player base, because he knows he cannot even deliver 50% of the stretch goals in the next 5 years. So instead, Chris makes Star Citizen worse. People will leave, people will stop buying ships. Chris can say, we tried, but people lost interest, people stopped giving us money. So unfortunately, Star Citizen failed with the slow, arcadey, no fun master modes in 3.23, with terrible, very user-unfriendly Iron Man UI in 3.23, with item banks that are not any more realistic than local inventory, but make it much harder to use items, to equip items in 3.24, having to load our ships at outpost ourselves, using a magical handheld tractor beam in 3.24. And now we got green space in 3.20.
And they nerfed even the hand tractor. They nerfed that too. Why? Why are you nerfing things that you have no other choice but to use? I believe that may well be the... I mean, I have no definite answer, but I have the same suspicion. It's been commented before in my videos. Chris Roberts is trying to finish this thing. Not in actually making, no. He's trying to get rid of the company. Oh, why would he be? Well, because there is a point in which he already made a ton of money. He made a lot of money. So it's pretty simple. You made a ton of money. Now you're not making as much money as you were making before. Now you're getting heat for not finishing the game you were supposed to have finished a decade ago. Okay? Time keeps on going up. People are realizing. And it's getting to that point where keeping the business going. There's a reason why you see closed curtains. There's a reason why you see signs of going out of business, going bankrupt. There's a reason why these things happen. And the reason why these things happen is, first of all, people are not giving you enough money so as to make it profitable for you, right? So those ship sales are probably going to have been going down quite a bit for a time now. And most of all, the projection is looking like shit. So if your projection is looking like shit, if you have costs that are enormous in your company, it gets to a point where you start losing money. Now, do you see Chris Roberts wasting his own money in this thing when he obviously cares so little? So there's some of these things that are speculation. There's some of these things that are guesstimating. And then there's certain unavoidable, uncomfortable facts and truths. Chris Roberts clearly does not give much of a fuck about Star Citizen. If not, it wouldn't be in this state that it is now. If not, it would be like the guy from Hello Games that's constantly like, yeah, shit, here we go, man. He's super excited about everything. He has constant interaction. It's been years since Chris Roberts has disappeared from the project. He obviously doesn't care. This is just a business for him. This is just an ATM for him. If this is not going well, he has to close down. He needs an excuse to close down. And hey, I always said I would be doing physical lies, and people didn't understand. Those haters, those normies, they didn't understand that we were physicalizing things. And now I have to close CIG. That sounds like a very nice excuse that a lot of idiots will actually believe. So he liquidates the assets. He takes actually a big check back home, and he's done, man. That's it. I mean, you see what I'm doing here? I'm absolutely wrong. So all fingers crossed. I'm absolutely wrong. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's going to be delivering Pyro next month. It's going to be 4.0, and next year 1.0 with 100 new star systems and aliens and homes and habs and base building and kindergarten so as to send your sim kids in space. Oh, okay. I mean, yeah, hopefully. But we cannot be idiots. We cannot be these cult fanatics that just wish for the best. We're not even Chris Roberts is even showing his face around anymore here, man. Come on, are we stupid? Are we gonna just fool ourselves, lie to ourselves to that point? I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he wants to end this once and for all and move on to other things like spending time in his mansions and his actual real yacht, physicalized for real in the real world, and his money. He is not interested in doing any of this that you see here. He's clearly not into it anymore. It's probably been a long time since he stopped caring. See you next time.
All right, you two idiots. Yeah, your face, we weren't even 30 seconds into it. Your face was already kind of like, what?
I was making faces too.
Okay, so some people might be saying, why, Griff? Why are you even showing this? Because it's interesting that these are two content creators. One who is very well known in the Star Citizen community, Cameral, and one that's maybe a lot lesser known with a few lesser views, but they both seem to have this conclusion that well, first of all, he opens up talking about the changes visually in the game, but then it starts to move toward this whole thing that Chris Roberts is not engaged anymore. He doesn't care. Ultimately, this is just to force us to move us to a place where we no longer are interested in the game. We don't like it anymore. Funding cuts out, and it gives him an out from not having to make the game that they have projected to do. So let me go to Fast Card. I'll go to you first today. Yeah, what did you think about the video? Any comments you have there before we get into the post?
Griff, you commented on me not being militant. I'm heading that way now after watching that video, and it's all because of you. So thank you very much for that.
Okay.
There's so many things. Okay. One thing they mentioned was the Star Citizen not making as much money. I just looked at the CCU Games dashboard. We are, I can't say we, CIG is $3 million ahead of where they were at this point last year. So that means they're on their way to having another, not record-breaking, but, previously record-breaking year. And this is only in September.
So are you saying that this is a false statement? Are you saying that was a false statement?
I don't know what I don't know where he's getting.
Well, I'm saying you're saying it was a false statement he made because you're saying that the evidence shows otherwise, right? So the reason why I'm saying it is because the mainstream media will say, "Well, that was a false statement." I say it was a lie. Okay, that's what I'm going to say. Okay, it's a lie. All right. So now go on to your next
alternative fact. It was an alternative fact.
I was going to say that, but I was going to try to stay away from that.
Nope. Call a spade a spade. Pardon the expression. Okay, it was a lie. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, anyway, so yes. That crowdfunding is $3 million ahead of where they were at this point last year. So I don't know where they were getting that statistic from. And the other thing is, pitch black, faces pitch black everywhere. Have you seen, you don't see nebulas somewhere? You don't see supernovas going, from the Hubble and James Webb telescope? I mean, they were saying that that's to colorize the video, the photograph somewhat. Maybe they do. I'm not sure what the actual thing is about that. But there is color in space, and especially when in supernovas and stuff like that. So I'm not sure where to get that from either. Alternative facts again, put it that way. Chris Roberts has disappeared. Was that a clone at CitizenCon? Did I miss something? Who is that at CitizenCon? Yeah, those are a couple of points that stood out to me watching the video.
Okay.
Thank you for that, Graham. Thank you.
Sure. No, sure. Yeah. Okay. Cap, serious? What you got? Anything? Any notes you want to take away from that video?
I mean, Fast Card has. I didn't know you were going to get that militant Fast Card, but I appreciate it. No, Fast Card has captured a good portion of what I wanted to say. I mean, what stuck with me. There's a phrase. Every accusation a confession. Every accusation a confession. And what I got from this, not only Gem, but also Cameral, is that when you say things like Chris Roberts must be getting frustrated and is going to walk away from the game. That sounds like that's what you're saying you would do in his situation, right? Because they don't then go on to say, I say this because I've run a business, right? They don't go on to say, I say that because I came up in a family run business. They don't talk about actually having experiences leading women, men, and others in this work of actually creating something out of nothing, right? The idea of building anything at all is not their narrative. Maybe their narrative around that could be around their channel, right? But they don't even talk about that, right? And so this, for me, every accusation seems to be a confession, every submission projection, right? You're talking really about yourself and what you would do. Fast Card's point. If we've gotten 2 letters of the chairman, and in between that, we've gotten a long form CitizenCon appearance by the CEO, Chris Roberts. What else are we looking for? Right? He is not the chief hugs officer. He's not the chief community officer. He is the chief executive officer, right? His job is to be out there executing the project. His job is not to be reaching out to content creators moving across a grievance algorithm to make sure that they feel okay about the fact that they tried something with the skybox, right? When it comes to that in particular, you know, the thing I like to do is check my own bias, right? So my natural reaction to that is like, that seems weird. So what's the first thing I do? First thing I do is go and I pull up images of space battles and sci-fi shows, space battles and space renderings in sci-fi movies, right? And most of them are rendering relatively black and dark, right? And they figured out a way to light the ship in that blackness and darkness. And sometimes the light is coming from reflections off of moons or planetary systems. And sometimes it's just artificial so that we can see the ship, right? And so in this testable, playable alpha phase, to see CIG try different things, I think is important, right? We want them to try it now. And I think what's happened in one way could be seen as very healthy, right? They tried some stuff, they rolled it out, we saw it, or we are reacting to it. They're getting that reaction. They're explaining what they're trying. They're getting additional reaction. That's part of the role we can play in the development. But it's that second thing that bothers me, right? And it's replete across the narratives of this channel that you played. It's this is happening, therefore insert nefarious motive here, right? And it happens almost every time, right? This thing's happened, therefore insert nefarious motive, right? And for me, that's not necessarily the way a lot of people want to relate to the project, right? I think the vast majority of people are just waiting for something playable to play, right? Those of us that are engaged, though, we're not necessarily engaged to be in this hyper adversarial relationship with CIG, right? I got a hyper adversarial relationship with Amazon. When my package don't come on time, right? There are places where I have a hyper adversarial relationship. It's not necessarily with this project. You know, a lot of us are into this thing, not because we're white knights, but because we are interested in the journey. We're interested in it. It is interesting. It is of interest, right? And so this other thing where it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, from my room, wherever I live, separate from Cloud Imperium Games, I figured out the nefarious narrative and I'm going to share it with people, to me seems more like somebody going for views or somebody telling us who they are than it is telling me any truth about the project. So
that's interesting. Yeah. one of the things you said that different people come to play the game. And I was just thinking about what does that mean when people come to play the game? There are some people who come for fun. There's some people who come from a social dynamic. There's some people who come from what would be simulation, living in space. Some people want to have the second life experience, right? And these different people come bringing different expectations and desires from what Star Citizen will be. One of the things that was interesting is from what Kamaral was saying, and they were making this comparison about when people are looking out with the James Webb telescope, or when we see these images that have been colorized because of the light spectrum. We know that that's not what you would really see in space per se, but they do that so that we can see different spectrums of light and the beauty of it. And it's pretty, but space is black. And that's very true. And to your point, Captain, the reality is that if we saw something in space, in the blackness of space, we wouldn't see it. And so it's interesting that some of the posts that are in here, the way people responded to this is some people said, well, that's the CIG's being lazy, because if they were to put in the scanners and these other things, then they wouldn't have to do this, which may be true. I don't take anything away from that. I do appreciate the fact that you said that, there are things that CIG throws out there to determine, is this something we will do? And then there are those things that we say, this doesn't work, or this isn't what we know what not to do now, because we tried such and such, right? Well, but I'm just saying there are things like that. So while we were watching the video, I decided to look up what is a space simulator. I Googled that. Okay. And the AI overview, the very first thing that comes up says a space simulator is a software program that simulates space flight or outer space and can range from astronomical software to arcade games to training programs. Space simulators can vary in purpose from pure simulation to entertainment. So that gives it a very broad band of what simulator could be. And I'm mentioning this because sometimes people, when they think simulator, they think that it's 100% real life. And this definition says that it could be that, but it also could be something that has aspects of real life, right? Something that even to the point of saying an arcade game, right? Depending on this dynamic of what are we trying to simulate? Simulate means to assimilate. It's something that this is what it's like to be in space. It is not what it is to be in space necessarily, but there are aspects of it that can go there. So let me read something here. This was the response from CIG. And it's from, we were joking around about this earlier. If it's Niku, we call him Nick from CIG.
Call him Nick. Yeah.
Nick, we'll call him Nick. Okay. And this is what Nick says. Nick says, hi, everyone. I'm sharing some words from our environment team. We have changed the skybox to give a better read to ships in space because we've had so much blackness in the skybox in many lighting conditions, ships would become almost invisible, which made making out structures and other ships very difficult. With a skybox containing more ambient color, ships will have much stronger silhouettes against the backdrop of space. It was also to lend Stanton as a system a more unique identity, especially as we head towards 1.0 and more systems come online. Now, for some people, keeping everything black would probably just be universal across all systems. But when we saw the examples in Pyro, we saw that there was a slight tone toward red, if I'm not mistaken, in that system. But look at this next part. This is the part that's important to me that I think that gets missed.
Most important part, right?
Yeah. As a reminder, this is all still a work in progress. They even bold that out.
Again, please.
This
or the
is
people in the back.
A work in progress in bold. And this pass was also about bringing all our methods of creating the system skyboxes in line with the latest workflows we've developed. It still remains to be tweaked further, so feedback Is valuable.
Yeah.
So
that for me, that's so instructive in that I feel that way about everything that they do.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That everything is a work. Like they feel like they had to explicitly say it again. And as different people come into the project in different ways with different experience with it, they're going to have to keep saying it. Probably going to say it more rather than less. but it's a work in progress. And because we're in the testable alpha phase and we never see as gamers, as backers, feedback is valuable. But Griff, it's so important because they said that, and then look at the very next post. Look at the very next post. I'm going to say terrible approach to solve something that wasn't really a problem. Well, first of all, they just told you they weren't solving it. They told you they were trying something as a work in progress. That's what they just told you, right? And you're like, solve something that wasn't really a problem. They told you that they're trying to figure out how to get better read for ships in space, right? Right now, you and I, Griff, have talked explicitly about things like ship paints, right?
Right.
And wanting to get black ship paint so that we could blend in to the blackness with certain ships, right? What they're saying is, hey, we're having a reaction to some of that and we want to try some things out. They need our feedback. It could have been very simple for the community to say, hey, saw the change to the skybox, doesn't feel really good to me, would like you to reconsider and move on, right?
That would be reasonable.
Right? That'd be reasonable. But instead we're getting, this is a terrible approach. How is it a terrible approach? What approach would you use, right? Another person says, yeah, any other solution would have been better. That's not true.
Right.
Right? Any other
They
solution?
could turn out a ship black. Or turn out a
Right.
ship white for that reason. Yeah.
Come to my house and beat me over the head until I decide I like it. Well, I mean, what I mean, any other solution. There's lots of solutions that wouldn't have been better, right? So, you know, this is part of when you communicate online, they say that 85% of communication, that's body language and being in the presence of the other person and all that stuff is just lost, right? And I'm not sure there's any way to make that up, right? Because I continue to see us talk past each other very often. And I think what that means for CIG is that, you know, advertisers have to say stuff 12 times for it to penetrate. They're going to have to say stuff 24, 36, 48 times.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
For it to be heard. And then for people not only to hear it, but then to react to actually what they've heard and not what they've decided is being said. Right. Which takes us back to the videos you played for us. Right. These are individuals who are not reacting to what's actually happened. Letter from the chairman, Chris Roberts at CitizenCon, another letter from the chairman, illuminations around 4.0 and 1.0 in those letters. They are reacting to what they've decided that means.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
And we got to be really careful about that.
They introduced guardrails a few passages ago, and people love that. As far as I know, I haven't heard anyone complaining about it. So I mean, but you know, if it was up to some people, we wouldn't have gotten that because that's a change to the game, and people seem to. A vocal minority seem to dislike change to the game, and I wanted to bring up something else. Well, several years, not several, but quite a few years ago, they introduced or they showed a Squadron 42 trailer. They introduced the coil. Now, I don't know if people are familiar with the coil, but that's inside a nebula. And inside that particular nebula, just in the game, it's not having any relation to real life, but the lightning strikes going on, so that enhances the entertainment and the gameplay and the difficulty of navigating through the coil. I don't remember anyone complaining about that, because, you know, the coil is mostly, I want to say, gray-ish. But anyway, it's easier to see ships inside the coil because you have the backdrop of the nebula. I can see CID just trying out because maybe we have green this time. We may and Pyro, you said had the reddish hue. We may have purple, blue, or different colors depending on the pack. Because they want to try out stuff and see what works and what doesn't work. But they want that feedback. And
to your point, Fastcart, that's where Nick says that in the second. You know, the big paragraph. He says, it was also to lend Stanton as a system a more unique identity, especially as we head towards 1.0 and more systems come online. What I heard when he said that was Fastcart's point. They've got a sort of overarching color palette for each system, right? That they're imagining right now. An overarching color palette that's a little more reds and oranges for Pyro. A color palette for Stanton. They might imagine that Nyx is almost totally black. They might imagine like they're trying out different ideas here, right? And I really want them to have the space, even though the project has been around for a while. I think it's important for them to continue to have the space to try out ideas and to get our feedback, right? And I don't think there's anything wrong with direct, vigorous feedback. I guess I'm struggling with, here's my feedback, and on top of that, here's what it means that you even tried this, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy to me in this environment where you never get this opportunity with any other game, right?
Yeah.
It's very rare that you get the opportunity for somebody to go, hey, we rolled something out. We want to see a reaction to it. I feel like if they don't say, hey, this is going to be a skybox test, and as a result of that test, like we had the other day, we were talking again about how much more interesting the lighting is approaching landing zones now, right? They didn't need to come to me and say, hey, we're going to try some new lighting on the landing zones,
Yeah.
right? It was enjoyable to see that, right? And be like,
Yeah.
oh, I haven't been in here in a while. This looks different. Oh, this looks great. I'm just really enjoying that.
Yeah.
Right. And giving us stuff to continue to discover. So I don't know. I really find it, I think it's when you talk about dream stompers, sometimes it's us stomping on our own dream, right? Because we articulate to the developers that it's not in their interest to try things, and that's the wrong message to send. Right.
I'm going to share my thought, and we're going to wrap this up here. You guys know that I retired from aviation. I was in aviation for 30 years, and I wrote a post a few months back. I was flying, I base out of ArcCorp. And if you guys know, when you fly into Area 18, there's a set of hangars that go down the center of the spaceport. And flying into there is great. You can come in, there's like a little corridor there that you fly down, and the hangar doors open. Those are the ones that the horizontal ones. But the vertical hangars, on the other hand, are spread out into like a Y configuration. And in that Y configuration, there are cranes, freight containers, all types of stuff out there, right? Now, as an aviation guy who used to do aviation management at an airport, we call those obstructions. You don't put obstructions in flight paths. And people say, well, it's a challenge to fly in and it makes it fun. No. The reason why you don't have obstructions outside of an airport, you don't have radio towers and big buildings and stuff, is not for when people are able to fly correctly. It's for when something is wrong, when their plane may have an engine failure, or there may be a rudder that's stuck, or the landing gear don't come down. You give them as much berth as possible in case something is wrong. So when I'm flying my reclaimer in and everything is running at full efficiency, no big deal. But when I'm flying it in and maybe the thrusters are out and the thing is sideways and I'm wrestling with it to keep it lined up, that big old freaking crane all of a sudden doesn't look so great sitting out in front of the thing. Now, that's me, and that's my home. And every time I fly in there, they got light posts down there, all types of stuff, right? And it makes me cringe every time I come in because it looks cool. But the reality of it is none of that stuff would be there. There would be a path at least a block wide in each direction to make sure that anybody who flies in can fly in safely and smoothly. Now, I could say in the real world, that's not the way it is. I could say, I'm not going to play this game. I'm not going to fly into ArcCorp anymore because they've got obstructions there. I could say that. But the reality is that for the game, it looks good. Some people even wrote back and said they thought it looked cool. And I'm like, you know what? I'll figure out a way to deal with it. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll have to go live on Orson. But
that is more reasonable than saying,
yeah, the game's failing. When they're trying to get rid of the game now.
Yeah, when they put obstructions into the flight paths of these large hangars, that means they don't want people to play and they're trying to shut the game down.
Yeah, right.
That sounds crazy to me.
Yeah, but you could see how I could take that position being an aviation person, right? And knowing in my subconscious, when I see that, I see nothing but foolishness. That's actually what I see when I'm flying in. But I also know it's a game. And do I really want these developers to be opening up FAR Part 119 and looking up obstructions, or Part 77 on obstructions, and saying, this is what we need to do when we do this game? No, I'm not, you know. And so there's an adaptability side to this that I have to give the game. And guess what I did? I wrote a post. Maybe they'll take the post maybe one day they'll say, you know, this is right. Maybe there'll be some other people who get behind that post and say, yeah, you know, Griff is right. There were some people who cheered for what I said, and there were other people who hated what I said. And some of the people had to keep telling them, well, the guy who's writing this said that he opened it up saying he was in aviation, and he's just mentioning it as a concern, you know? So I didn't get offended by people who felt differently about it, because it's a game, you know, and I'm going to figure it out. But my point is that I can introduce my real world, very true and valid points, but I'm trying to overlay it into a game. I could talk about it being a simulator, and I want to be able to fly my 890 in and cruise in, but that crane is there. You know,
I got one for you, Griff. It'll be like me saying there's not enough ramp in the game. I'm going to stop playing the game because there's no way for me who in real life uses a wheelchair to get around in the game. I'm going to rage quit because there's not enough ramp in the game. Stuff like that. I mean, I've got to say it again. I said at the beginning of the show. This is why we can't have nice things. And you know, I'm going to have to change my shirt because y'all made me military. Y'all fault.
Yeah, and I think we
understand. If Fastcard was going to quit over that, he'd have quit when it was just Port All-Star. It was all steps. It was all steps over there.
That's very true. Very true. I think we all can appreciate the fact that we all have these visions of what we want Star Citizen to be, but it always brings us back to that little checkbox at the end of whenever we sign in that says things can change. And we'll just have to see. To your point, Captain Serious Fun, it's a journey. And I've said this before. I might like 80% of what's in Star Citizen. Those obstructions might land in that 20%, right? There may be something else that lands in that 20% that I just don't dig. You know, the question is, will the rest of it satisfy me enough to want me to continue playing? And so, you know, our encouragement to you guys is Cap, you said it earlier, use the positivity of the spectrum to be able to express, you know, what it is, how you feel about it. If you don't like it, explain that you don't like it. But don't stomp on the dream for yourself. I'm not even talking about for other people. You know, is that worth losing the dream for something else that could be there? And for me, those cranes, they drive me crazy, and I grit my teeth every time I fly into Area 18. But at the same time, it's like, you know, it'll be all right.
It sounds to me like you need a new home. That's all.
It'll be all right. Nah, I ain't leaving Area 18. Okay. Anyway, that's it for the day. Guys, thank you. You guys, as always, these guys are such great partners to talk to this stuff with. I drop this stuff on them at the last minute, and they come and shine through without even prepping. So once again, thank both of them for what they shared. Thank you guys again, those of you who's continue to support us through Patreon, through YouTube. We really, really appreciate your dedication and love for what you do here. And of course, to those who support us every week on our Thursday show, our Saturday show, our Sunday show. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate that. We're going to sign off. Cap, go ahead and take us out with the
peace,
love,
and soul. You guys have a great week. Take care. Ciao.